Welcome to the Champs App podcast, where we help players and parents demystify the world of minor hockey development and recruiting for both girls and boys. On today's episode, I talk with Josh Funk, who is the head coach of the new D3 women's hockey program at Hood College that will begin playing in the fall of 2024. We discussed Josh's coaching background, why Hood College started their women's hockey team, the dynamics of playing D3 hockey, and the D3 recruiting process. This was a very informative conversation with Josh, so I hope you enjoy it. Before we get to today's amazing episode, I wanted to give you an update on Champs App. We now have over 80 college coaches with verified Champs App profiles, most of them from D1 schools, and we continue to add more coaches each week. Once you create your beautiful, free hockey resume on Champs App, you will have a personalized profile link to share with coaches and teams, or you can connect with team coaches directly within Champs App. Coaches not only learn more about you as a player, but they also get notified of your upcoming schedule, when you add videos, and where you are playing if you change teams. Just go to champs.app and click the sign up button to start or update your profile. If you want to learn more, look in the show notes for links to the list of college coaches using Champs App and videos about why and how to create your free Champs App hockey resume. I'm very excited to have on the podcast Josh Funk, who is the head coach of the new D3 women's hockey program at Hood College that will start playing in the 2024-25 season. Hailing from Roseville, Minnesota, Josh attended Gustavus Adolphus College, where he started his coaching career as a student assistant for their men's hockey program. He then went on to work at the high school, club hockey, and junior levels before becoming an assistant coach with the women's hockey program at Robert Morris University. In 2020, Josh took over as head coach at Plymouth State University, where he spent 2 years. Then in May of this year, he was named the inaugural head coach for the Hood Blazers. Welcome to the podcast, Josh.
Thank you. It's good to be on.
Hey, thanks so much for doing this. Why don't we start out like we do all our guests, telling us a little bit about your hockey history and how you played hockey and then got into the coaching ranks.
Yeah, so I'm from Roseville, Minnesota. Obviously, hockey is a big thing in Minnesota, so it was just kind of a way of going about it. But I come from a big hockey family or a big skating family, so my brother played hockey. My older sister was a world competitor in figure skating. And then my younger sister played hockey and figure skating. So it's kind of just what we did in the family. So grew up playing in Roseville and then went to St. Thomas Academy for high school. And then, as you mentioned, Gustavus, where I played hockey and baseball.
Gotcha. And what level of hockey did you play at Gustavus?
I played on the their JV team or their club team at the time, and then kind of back and forth between that and the varsity team, and then had a career-ending injury my junior year, and is kind of how I got into coaching my senior year. So one of those blessing in disguise type things.
Gotcha. So yeah, please explain how you started getting into coaching and what made you start doing that as a student assistant.
Yeah, so obviously I couldn't play anymore, but I still want to be part of the program, and I love the coach at Gustavus, and so I just want to be around him and be around the program more, and obviously had a lot of friends on the team as well, and so I was helped out with everything under the sun with the program, and then once I graduated, I actually started coaching at the youth levels in Shakopee, Minnesota, and had some success there, and then kind of one day I was like, you know what, this would be really cool to do for a job and for a living. And then I decided to go back to school. I went to Miami University in Ohio for sports psychology. And then from there, just kind of implemented that into coaching and took off from there.
Gotcha. Yeah. And so you've had, several stops on the way. We're not going to hit each one of them. Folks can go check out your elite prospects profile if they want to see everywhere you've been. But how did you end up at Robert Morris University?
So in my career, I was always trying to get to be the head coach of a Division III program. That was always my goal. And I was the head coach of a high school team in Minnesota at the time. I had already been an assistant coach at the D3 level. And I knew I needed to do something to network and get into the college rankings. And so I reached out to Paul Colantino, who was the head coach at Robert Morris at the time, and had an interview with him. Logan Biddle, who's now the head coach at Robert Morris, and it it just worked out, and I'm very fortunate that they gave me an opportunity to be part of the program.
Gotcha. And so then how did you get your first D3 head coaching job at Plymouth State?
So yeah, it really kind of shot off from there. It's kind of funny. It's so hard to get into the rinks, and once I was in it, then I was getting a lot more opportunities. So I can't credit Paul and Logan enough with helping me be references and stuff to get my foot in the door. And when I interviewed at Plymouth State, it was during COVID, so everything is all over Zoom. We always joked that they didn't even know if I could skate when they hired me as coach. But it was very fortunate, kind of a little bit of a stroke of luck there, but I was very fortunate to get my first head coaching position at Plymouth State.
Gotcha. So how did the Hood College opportunity come about?
Yeah, so I was the director of girls hockey at MAP Hockey, which is a skill development company in Minnesota, and knew I wanted to get back into college coaching. That's where my skill sets is best fitted, I feel like. And so when the Hood opportunity opened up and applied, I came down to campus for an interview and absolutely fell in love with the area. Within 5 minutes of being on campus, I was like, yes, this is exactly where I want to be coaching. This is a great community. And then everything in the athletics department is set up great for competitiveness. I'm a very competitive coach, and so wherever I went, that needed to be a focus, and every box was checked when I was on campus. So definitely very excited to be here at Hood and be in Frederick.
Gotcha. Yeah. So let's take a step back. Let's just talk about Hood College. So I understand it's a private college in Frederick, Maryland, about an hour or so outside of Washington, D.C. and probably Baltimore as well. So maybe just talk about the school, the academics, the student population, things like that.
Yeah. So we are in, like you said, Frederick, Maryland, which is about 50 minutes outside of Baltimore and 50 minutes outside of Washington, D.C. Then we're only about 20 minutes away from the Appalachian Mountains. So it's a really cool area. Frederick itself is a very historic town, but it's about 80,000 people. So it has a small town feel with the big city environment around our downtown area. Hood is about 1,200 undergraduates and 900 graduate students. So we are a smaller school, but the opportunities for academics at Hood are incredible. We are nationally recognized for our science departments and our nursing fields, and then we are internationally recognized for our business school as well, which is a very unique thing for a school of our size to have.
Gotcha. And my understanding from Wikipedia that the original name of Hood College was actually the Women's College. So I'm assuming that there's a very high percentage of women students at the school.
Yeah, Hood was founded in 1893 as an all-women's school, and we didn't go fully co-ed until 2003. So relatively new on the co-ed side. Obviously, that's also when we added in our men's sports. So right now, I think we sit around 60% females, 40% males.
Gotcha. Okay. And talk about the facilities. Where you'll be playing. Are you going to be playing at the Skate Frederick ice rink? And talk about the facilities that you're working out for the start of your season next year.
So on campus, in our athletic building, we have everything that we need. So like our gym, our weight room, hockey offices, athletic training room, everything is in one spot on campus. We will be playing at Skate Frederick, which is about 2.5 miles from campus. Takes 5 minutes to get there. So it's very nice actually when I bring recruits over to the rink. They're like, wow, that was close, because there's a lot of schools where if their rink is off campus, they're driving 20 or 30 minutes to get there, and we have a 5-minute drive. So it's a very nice partnership that we have with the rink. At the rink, so there's 2 sheets of ice at our arena. We'll be taking over one of them, and so we already have our signage up at the rink and everything. It says home of the Hood College women's ice hockey team, and so we're going to add more signs in there. We're also going to build a brand new locker room in there, and so that will kind of beef up the rink as well.
Gotcha. All right. So you mentioned you got some signage already up, and the name of the team is the Blazers. So I'm gonna ask you this, the same question I asked the head coach of Balmoral Hall, the girls prep school in Winnipeg, Coach Zacharias. What exactly is a Blazer?
So it is interesting. So as you can tell in the background here, it's like our mascot is a horse, but the blazer is actually the coloring of the mane, like on the back of the horse. It's like if it's like a white and a black, then the blazer is kind of like what runs up and down the mane.
Gotcha. So, and I also understand maybe it had something also to do with like wearing some type of sweater or something like that at some time in the way past. So, but I understand that relates to the logo. Okay, great. Just wanted to get these important questions out of the way first. So, please tell me why Hood College has decided to actually add a D3 team, women's hockey team.
So there's a couple of reasons that went into it. The first reason was ice hockey, or women's ice hockey, is the fastest growing sport in the state of Maryland. And so we wanted to make sure that we kept up with that trend. The other part to it is part of Title IX is that the percentage of athletes needs to match the percentage of general population students. So we had to add a women's sport to make sure that we were Title IX compliant. And then, like I said, it just made sense to add hockey because of how fast the sport's growing all over, but specifically in Maryland.
Gotcha. So you got named head coach in May. So basically you have almost 18 months to get the team ready. What's the first thing that you did once you were named head coach?
First thing that I did was really just establish a good relationship with the other coaches on campus. It was kind of unique, actually. I had interviewed in early December last year at Hood, and within then a couple of weeks, they had offered to me. But I was actually on vacation in Cabo San Lucas at the time, and so didn't have my phone on me or anything. So my offer actually came in through email. So that was pretty unique to kind of talk over the situation with my fiance on, are we going to move to Maryland? Am I going to take the job? And but we got to do that on the beach, so that was pretty cool. And then started actually recruiting. So I was hired January 1st, and I was in Minnesota. So I finished out the high school season in Minnesota recruiting. Didn't actually move to Frederick until March. So it was a lot of, Zoom conversations, phone calls with other coaches. But that's kind of where I got the start, is just really get a full understanding of what Hood College is and really what are the selling points.
Gotcha. And then, you needed a conference to play in. Maybe describe that process of figuring out, who you were going to play.
So, yeah, that's one of those things that is taking over and growing a brand new program. It's one of those things that as a college coach, I never really thought I'd have to be involved in the conversations with conferences and commissioners. But it's been a great learning process for me. So we were actually voted into the UCHC back in May. And so we're in the UCHC this year as a voting member. But now the MAC conference, which is our main conference that our school is in, they are sponsoring men's and women's hockey starting next season. So we will move over to the MAC. And then we'll be the 6 MAC schools that sponsor hockey. And then we're also bringing in Wilkes and Newman for an 18 conference.
Gotcha. So you won't be playing in the UCHC, is that correct?
No, we won't. Our schedule next year will be a MAC conference schedule.
Okay, so that's actually not such a bad thing, because there's some really good teams in the UCHC. So I figured maybe you take a couple more years before you start playing those high-end teams.
Yeah, I mean, we still want to challenge. Our expectation as a program is that we're going to be competitive right away from day one. So we're not really taking any slow-moving steps. We're diving in head first, and so yeah, I mean, we're going to strategically make a schedule to make sure that we're competitive and we're doing everything that we need to do. But at the end of the day, we're not going to shy away from some of those more competitive teams either.
Gotcha. So talk about rounding out your coaching staff. I know you have Joey and Alyssa on board now. Maybe just talk about their backgrounds and how you're dividing up responsibilities.
Yeah, so it's kind of nice because all three of us have our different areas of expertise, I guess. So Joey's from Frederick. He moved away. He played club hockey down in South Carolina. moved back, and so he's been great with the area. He knows the Maryland, the DMV area, Pennsylvania, like this whole mid-Atlantic area, he knows really well. Elisa just graduated from William Smith College, where she played 4 years, but she's originally from the Boston area, so she knows New England like the back of her hand. I know Minnesota and Canada, so we kind of all have our different areas that we kind of know better than others.
Gotcha. And just so we're clear on the last name, is Joey Kaliga and Lisa Kane, is that right?
Keeney.
Okay, thank you for helping me pronounce that. All right, great. And so each of you has different kind of areas of expertise geographically on where to recruit from. So let's just talk about that. Let's talk about the recruiting process. Start with very simple things: is what kind of coach do you want to be, and therefore what kind of players are you looking for?
So I get this question a lot from players: is what's your coaching style? What are your coaching philosophies? And what I always say is I'm a very intense and energetic coach. I have high standards and high expectations for the players that I coach, and I want them to have those same high standards for me as a coach. As you can see behind me, we have our 4 pillars. We call it the Blazer way. So our 4 pillars are trust, discipline, accountability, and creativity. So we are recruiting players that kind of have those personality traits. They understand what these are, at least on a base level, because for every day for their 4 years, this is going to be preached into them. And this is what they're going to graduate with and go off into the world and take with them once they graduate. So that kind of answer the question.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, so then relate to that is then, how would a player demonstrate trust, discipline, accountability, and creativity when you're recruiting them? Like it's hard to see that when they're pushing the puck up and down the ice.
Right. And so a lot of it comes down to how do they communicate with us as coaches. If a player sends an email and then we don't hear back for a month from them, chances are maybe they don't have a high sense of self-accountability. And so maybe we kind of adjust on what we're gonna do in that situation. But a lot of it just comes down to the communication with us. Do we feel like they understand what discipline looks like? Do we feel like they know what accountability looks like? Obviously, with us being a new program, trust is maybe one of the biggest things right now. Is we want them to trust the process, trust that what we're building is going to be what we say it's going to be, and that it's going to be successful.
Gotcha. So, so one of the things that I try and still haven't grokked is, there's over 70 D3 programs, more being added every year, obviously with Hood coming on board next year. So why would a player choose D3? And then how do they pick which school they want to go to? Because there are no scholarships. So like how is the decision made? And maybe walk me through the thinking that you encounter when talking to players.
Yeah, I mean, there's, when it comes to recruitable players, there's going to be the top end talent, which is obviously going to go D1. But what a lot of players kind of forget about is if you're not in that top echelon, like if you're maybe a bubble player between D1 or D3, is it better for you to go sit on the bench or not even dress for all 4 years just so that you can say you played D1? Or is it better to actually go somewhere, get your playing time, get the experience of playing college sports? And yeah, it's D3, but as we're seeing more and more and more, Division III sports are growing and they're getting more competitive every single day. So I think it's one thing that really gets forgotten is some players will be like, I'm going to go to this school just so I can say I played D1. And it's not necessarily always the best option for them.
And then within the D3 with, 70 plus options, how do they figure out, where to go? I mean, obviously the NESCAC schools, the New England, small colleges have a very good reputation academically. How does, how do you compete with, schools like that or even, more local schools to wherever their players are coming from?
Yeah, it is always tough. A lot of times it comes down to finances. Every school has a different price point. Every school has their different scholarships and financial aid situations. Hood College is very, very good at financial aid. it's kind of in a tier system. So we have a merit scholarship, and then so that will come with your acceptance, and then the second piece is going to be the added on financial aid that comes in. But our average cost per year is about $22,000, and our sticker price is $60,000. So you can see the difference. It's about $40,000 in scholarships that we can give out. Average. Obviously, we're going to have more, we're going to have less, but that's about what our average is. The other thing that we do as a program is we want to sell. Our area is incredible. The Frederick area is absolutely incredible to live in, and it's a great college town. And one really unique thing about Frederick is there's so much to do in the town, but a lot of other D3 schools are in the middle of nowhere. And so the fact that we can sell, hey, we have this extremely cool experience in our downtown area and stuff, that's a really big selling point. And then obviously being on campus, we want to get our recruits to campus as quickly as possible because our campus is incredible. There's a really positive vibe on campus. Everybody's very friendly, and there's a really strong community aspect to it. So that's what we really sell, is just everything you get outside of the classroom at Hood is hands down maybe one of the best ones that I've ever seen in my coaching career.
Gotcha. So in terms of the priorities of, players picking a D3 school and then specifically Hood College, where would hockey rank? Would it first be like the education, then the finances, then the hockey, or would hockey be number one and then the education and then the finances?
When we recruit, we want players that have a strong focus on hockey. We, like I said, we are going to be competitive right away from day one. So we need players that have that same mentality. And so when they're choosing is like when we recruit, okay, can you play hockey? That's great. Are you a good person? That's even better. And then it'll be like, okay, are you going to get into Hood? And then we start to work our way down into the finances. So I think finances on the recruiting side will be kind of on the later end of things, but it'll definitely start with hockey, then academics. Obviously, when they're here, we want them to have a strong focus on academics. That will always come first. But as we recruit, we want to make sure you're a good hockey player, a better person, and then we get into the application part of it.
Gotcha. And so I'm imagining that, for a new team, you need to cast your net pretty wide, because you don't know what you're going to end up with. Like, how do you decide, which level of players to be recruiting from? Because I'm assuming you're not going to go to, the top school in Minnesota and get the best players from there. Like, how do you figure out, the breadth of, teams that you need to be scouting? When I saw you in Minnesota a couple of weeks ago, I saw you watching some good teams, but not the highest end teams that were playing at the time.
Yeah, we definitely have had to get creative in how we recruit. We're not selling out either on those high-end players. We're not going in with the mentality of we can't get them just because we're a new program. We're still going to go for them, but we also have to keep in the back of our mind, we have to get really creative. And so, yeah, maybe I won't watch the best teams, but I'm going to look for something very, very specific from that team and that, the type of player. The areas too that we're drawing from is all across North America. So we're not necessarily sticking with Minnesota or Massachusetts for like hotbeds. We have players from California and Florida, and we're getting really creative on where we find talent throughout North America.
Gotcha. So talk to me about your recruiting cycle. So when did D3 schools typically start approaching players? Like, where are you at? How full is your roster these days? What are you looking for? All that kind of stuff.
The recruiting for D3, I would say, starts maybe the spring of junior year. I think a lot of coaches, obviously, we're constantly watching players and taking notes, but active recruiting will start the spring of the junior year. This summer before their senior year really speeds up, and then now in the fall of their senior years, when we're starting to see all of the commits. So that's probably the very typical D3 recruiting cycle there. As far as us as a program, we have been recruiting for the 2024 class since January 1st of this year. So we've been at it a while. I haven't counted up the miles yet, but I think I've traveled close to maybe 7,000 miles this year already. So like I said, we're getting very creative on where we're pulling from, where we're finding the talent. As far as our roster goes, as I look at our board over here, we have five commits, and we are in the financial aid process with 17 other players. So
Oh, wow.
we are moving very quickly, and I would think within the next couple of weeks we're going to get a handful more of commits as well once they get accepted, once they see what their financial aid is.
Gotcha. And are you bringing your inaugural class? Are they all going to be freshmen? So that means you don't need to recruit for basically 3 or 4 years, or are you trying to get a mix of different class years so that you can get 4 or 5 new players every year?
Yeah, we're going to bring in about 17 or 18 true freshmen. And then what we're hoping to do is bring in transfers and graduate students as well. The transfer portal, this is probably the last year the transfer portal will be all hectic because of the last year of COVID eligibility years. But we're hoping that helps us. And so we are going to bring in some transfers and graduate students to help mentor our freshmen and teach them what it's like to be a college athlete and what college hockey looks like. And then, like you said, that will help with the cycling through as we go through the years.
Gotcha. So let's get specific from a hockey perspective. What exactly is it that you're looking for from a hockey skills perspective at each position?
So we will play a very speed and puck possession based game. That is the style of coaching that I gravitate towards. Those are the systems that we'll be playing. And so when I look at players, it's can you skate? What does your skating form look like? Are you efficient with your strides? Obviously we want to get the fastest players that we can. But then also what is your patience with the puck? Everybody that we look at, we won't look at anybody that just grabs the puck and throws it up the boards randomly. We want to make sure that you have good poise with the puck and good patience. So that's specifically on the ice what we're looking for.
Gotcha. And if folks want to get seen by you, what's the process that you're doing for them to reach out to you, for you to go see them? How does that all work these days?
Yeah, we're on the road probably every other weekend. So we get out to see a lot of players. One biggest thing is to be proactive. For any players that may be listening, to be proactive. My assistant coach's emails, they're all on our website. I have a Champs app profile as well to reach out there. Instagram, so we're very, very big on Instagram. And we're gaining a strong following. And so that's another thing that we've seen is players will send us, DMs or anything like that. But I think for players listening, it's definitely be proactive and just let us know where you're going to be and send some video.
Gotcha. And then last question, what advice do you have for players or parents who are trying to figure out, where to play for, anywhere for college hockey? It could be D3, it could also just be club hockey. What advice do you have for them at figuring out what the right place is for them?
It's going to be what's the best fit for you. Don't look at, is it D1, is it D3, is it club? What is the best fit for you as a person? What's going to give you the most opportunities to succeed once you graduate from college? Like I said earlier, is going D1 just to say you play D1 isn't necessarily always the best option. Look at, do they have your major? Does it have a good student life? Is there a good surrounding town around it? What is your emotional experience going to be like when you're at the school? I think that's the biggest thing for students to look at.
Perfect. All right. So you kind of mentioned it before, but any major other ways that for folks, best way to reach out to you, and any upcoming events that you'll be at that folks might be able to find you in person?
Yeah, like I said, is email. Email is going to be the quickest and easiest. That's on our website. Follow us at it's hood_W hockey is on our Instagram and our Twitter. So that's going to be a good way as well. And then as far as upcoming, Elisa, one of our assistants, will be at Mass States for the club programs I think it's at the end of November. And then there'll be a lot of holiday tournaments coming up that we'll get out to, and then we'll start on the East Coast prep schedule as well. So our recruiting schedule is pretty flexible. But like I said, is let us know where you're going to be, and we definitely have the means to get to where we want to be.
Beautiful. Josh, I want to thank you so much for coming on the Champs App podcast. It was great to learn about your background, hear about your plans for the Hood program, and I want to wish you the best of luck in both the recruiting process and the start of your season next year.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be on here, and thanks for having me.
I want to thank Josh for coming on the podcast. I learned a lot about Hood College, how to start a new college women's hockey program, and how players choose a D3 school. You can connect with Josh on the Hood College website or his Champs App profile. Links to both are in the show notes.